Hi everyone, this is Selvi. Today's topic is related to what is length of the sprint and how to decide this length. We have already seen sprint. Sprint is a time boxed period in which the Scrum teams work on the work items, implement it and deliver the working product at the end of the period. So, when we say it is a time boxed period, that means there is a time that is available. Like it can be 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days. That is what we called it as a time period. Now, here, when we talk about sprint, it can vary from 1 weeks to 4 weeks generally. So, when we say length of the sprint, that means the number of days or the week of that time boxed period. Okay, so it can vary from 1 week to 4 weeks. Now, on what basis we will select our sprint should go with 1 week or 4 weeks? How we will select this? There should be some logic behind this. Of course, there is a logic. What actually we are expecting at the end of the sprint is a working product. When we will be able to give the working product and why we are giving this working product? When we have the clarity of what we will be working and when we are clear and team is aware of what they should work on, that is the time at the end we will be seamlessly able to deliver the working product. At the same time, this working product will be shown to the stakeholders to get their feedback. So now these two things we need to understand very clearly. One is on the clarity of the work items and the second one is the feedback loop of the working product. Let's consider two scenarios. One scenario is we are starting a very new product and we are just trying to find what are the work items that we will be working as part of this for the MVP, the first release. In this case, we are actually not so clear about all the things, and even business or the stakeholders also want to see what we are delivering, that is the working product, and try to give more suggestions and improvise the product. Because we are not so clear with all the information, we are trying to take step by step and we want to get more and more feedback and then improvise the product so that it will be ready for the first release. So here we need to be very sure about the feedback and we need to really sure about the time that what we are taking to develop the working product. Because let's consider in this case we are not so clear. If we take 4 weeks and if we are keep on developing for the 4 weeks and at the end of the 4th week we are showing it to the stakeholder and they say like no, this is not at all required, we want something else, we are going to lose 4 weeks. And at the same time their feedback is also very important because we are not sure about all the work items, what are the requirements, we are not really sure. So in this case, why can't we break down that requirement into a level for a week time and make that as a working product and show it to the stakeholders, get their feedback and ensure whether we are developing it right or not. Two advantages in this. We are getting the feedback as early as possible, that is in a week time, and second one is even though if it is not the one that is expected by the stakeholders, we are just going to lose only the 1 week time. So when we need to select shorter length of the sprint, when we are not so clear about the work items clarity, that is the requirement is not so clear and the requirement is completely dependent on the feedback loop of the working product at the end of the sprint, and we are trying to improvise the product with the help of the feedback, then we should go for shorter length. The advantage is the feedback loop will be early, that is like in a week time. And second one is, even though if the expectation is not met, we will be just losing that 1 week of time. We can definitely manage that. Consider one more scenario. We have done the ideation of the product in a very detailed way and very clear, and we are very sure that what we want to develop, and stakeholders are also aligned, and we have a very fine set of things. We just need to start executing it and show the working product to the stakeholders and get their buy-in and the alignment. In this case, we are very clear about what we are going to develop. So even if we are doing it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks sprint, still it should be manageable. The reason is, we are very much clear and we expect very, very minimum feedback from the stakeholders, because already they are aligned what we are developing. So their interest will be to see the requirement as a working product and maybe suggest something that may be some nice to have functionalities or some cosmetic changes which will not be so costly for us to add it. And we expect very, very less suggestions on the functionality, because already they are aware of that. In these kind of situations, it's well to take a sprint of 2 to 3 weeks. The reason is, we are clear about the requirement and we are also knowing that the alignment with stakeholders is already taken care, and it is all about, we want to show the working product and get their feedback at the end, where we are not expecting so many suggestions or improvisations. Third option where we will go for the longer period of 4 weeks is when the product is actually in a mature state and we know the details of each and everything, and it is all about a very smooth execution, and we know that this flow will help us, and the working product demo or the improvement areas that we collect from the stakeholders is also very minimum, because we are already very much aligned. In those cases, it is best to have the longer period of 4 weeks as the length of the sprint. So in a nutshell, whenever we select the length of the sprint, it is very important, if we are sure about the details and the requirement, go with the longer period. And when we are expecting more feedback loop and the working product should be as early as possible, we need to demo it to the stakeholders to get their feedback. That is the time we will go with a very shorter period of time of the sprint, which is like 1 week, so that we can also understand whether we really understood the requirement clearly or not. In addition, every sprint has its Scrum events associated with it. So longer the period, we can save some time with these meetings. For example, if it is a 1 week sprint also, we should be having the retrospective meeting, we will be having the planning meeting, we will be having the review meeting every week, and all these things should be taken care from the hours that the team is managing with the work also. If we take the 4 week sprint, there is only one planning meeting and one retrospective meeting and one review meeting. So in that case, 4 weeks once we are spending these many hours, whereas here in a week itself we should spend some hours. So we should be really careful when we are selecting the length of the sprint. So it is completely depend on the level of information and the maturity of the knowledge what we have about the product, and what is the rhythm that we are looking for to get the feedback from the stakeholders. Accordingly, we should select the length of the sprint, and this should be definitely consulted with the team before we actually start executing it. I hope this would have cleared the details about the length of the sprint. Thanks everyone for listening. Happy learning and stay tuned.